Welcome everyone to the Neuro Wednesdays with Dr. Jerome D and myself, Marcus Stalker D. It's like two names, two Ds, the two Ds. If you're here for the first time, we're going to be talking about some neuroscience and how neuroscience can help you in your quest, your journey to become a better trader. Now, before we carry on, I just want to make sure that the audio is okay because this is a slightly different platform. So if you can hear us, Bruno is going to help us
Yes,
there, audio and video. Okay,
one, two,
Jerome,
one, two. Good morning.
welcome.
Good
What
morning,
do you
Coach
what
Deeyana. Good morning,
how?
chat.
Thank you. How are you doing today, and what have you got for us today?
I am doing amazing. This is a Pumped Up Energy Wednesday. So hit the like button for Pumped Up Energy Wednesday. Today
Yes.
I'm very excited. We have very good news for the chat. So we've been working and communicating with Topstep to make the slides deck available on the website. So in the meantime, they remain available. Right after the segment of today, we will be sharing the slides on Discord. Okay, so for everybody on the chat, everybody on the live segment right now, be ready after the segment to have the slides shared by Coach Deeyana and or Bruno, both most probably, on Discord, and you will have them available. So you will be able to find the slides from last week and the new slides from today, because this is a sort of course we are building upon. So the slides will get updated every week, and you'll have new content. So
Yes.
how has trading been for everybody? How did our last week's session help you so far?
Yeah, let's hear it from everybody in chat who is here with us. Have you taken any action? Have you done any exercises? Have you done the visualizations? Did that did that help? And I'm pretty sure I know the answer to that, but let's hear it from the chat, right?
Yeah,
And if you
cool.
did like the previous lecture, let's hear it for the like button, like Jerome said. I do have a question here from TrapCard D. Have you ever used the Renko candles, and do you have a strategy or Topstep indicators to use with it? We don't have Renko in Topstep yet. I know that we're working on range candles. They are working on getting the third-party API enabled for everybody, but a little bit of patience. But yes, I've used Ninja Renko on Ninja Trader. It does help. It's similar to range bars. So I kind of bounce between Ninja Renko and range bars sometimes. We have the tick charts on Topstep. That is pretty much the closest we got to this point. But yeah, just a little bit of patience. It's a platform in development. So yeah, Tostino says, quick question D, does nicotine affect your sleep and fatigue? Yes, positively, which is why I'm on nicotine. I actually use the patches, and yes, I do vape as well. I actually didn't smoke, so just before we get into a lecture, didn't smoke since 2008, so I stopped smoking. I know I was never the biggest smoker, but due to my current health condition, my ACE2 receptors are being eaten by the disease, and nicotine helps with that. So yes, but I found that it helps my focus. I know that nicotine and relying on nicotine is probably not the best thing for everybody. Can be very addictive. I don't really have an addictive personality. So before we kick it off, Jerome, what are your thoughts on doing? Using medications to control things like focus, like let's say nicotine patches are pretty well known for doing, for being used for people with ADHD, for example, to like refocus better, or using beta blockers to calm yourself down and control some of the anxiety part of trading. What are your thoughts on it?
Well, thank you for this apartheid. Using beta blockers to reduce your stress is definitely not something I would advise. I mean, when I was studying, when we have a very stressful exam, uh, my doc would say take half a beta blocker, but just for
Yeah,
this exam. Don't get used
yeah,
to it. So basically, using uh, not non-medication substances or elements could be great, depending on what you use. Be careful, of course. This is
yeah,
not a medical advice, but don't abuse it. I mean, whatever you use, will help and shape you to build the habits or the networks you need. But if you rely too much on it, then you're going to be dependent on it. So
Yeah.
basically, people take vitamins. We tell people it's a 30-day sort of cure. People after a month, they're like, oh, I loved it. I wanna go ahead and follow up. No, you
So
can't.
it's
I
just a
mean,
crutch.
exactly. It won't be
Yeah.
good for your body. So it serves as refueling, reboosting, repumping the biological sort of rhythm of the body, but yet don't rely on it on a chronic timing.
Yeah. Okay, thank you so much for that. So, I mean, we've had some people who have had some psychological traumas from losing a lot of money through mistakes. And obviously, they have huge anxiety. I actually been through that myself when I lost my very first account many moons ago. And yeah, it was very crippling in the first 3 months for me. I had to go back to the demo, and even on demo, every time I would see a setup, I would be shaking. And at that point, I didn't really resort to any medications. I just kind of pushed through it. I went to the gym, so I would make sure that I do a very heavy exercise for like at least 90 minutes. And then I would come back and trade. So that was kind of my way of dealing with it. But I guess if somebody's really crippled by anxiety due to previous trauma created by ourselves, yeah, maybe that can be a stepping stone. But again, not medical advice, like Jerome said. If you're thinking about using any substances, including nicotine, you might want to go to your doctor and actually ask them to guide your journey through that. But don't rely on it all the time unless you have some other issue that needs to be sorted with the same type of medication. All right, let's kick it in to gear here with this lecture today. Jerome, I'm going to take a back seat here, so please lead the way.
Please stay in the front. Thank you. So at first, for the people who are not here with us and for the people who are here, we're going to do a sort of quick summary of what we've been through last week. So the first module we've been through is internal state design. So you don't trade from logic, you trade from internal state, biological state, mental state. So under pressure, we trade from our ANS, autonomic nervous system, before logic. So if you have a calm body, that will lead to a clear brain. But if you have a tense body, that will lead to a reactive brain. Reactive means you make emotional reactions. So we have a concept called neuronuggets. So these are like key points to keep in mind. So basically for this module, keep in mind state before signal, always. What is your state before the signal on the chart of the trade? If you have a tight jaw, this most probably means you're about to make a tight decision, whether it's under hesitation or tilt. So be aware about what state you are in. If your breath is short, I wrote your plan is gone. It's not necessarily gone, but most probably you're not going to be in the mood, in the zone, in calm, in presence. You don't need more edge. You need less noise. So basically, for us, for you and ID, the edge is not the technical side necessarily. It's also the mental side, the inner side, how you control yourself, how you execute. And so the less noise you hear, the less noise you pay attention to, the more edgy you become, right? And so if your body isn't calm, your click will be reactive. So the second module is decision engineering. So basically in the brain, we have main ways of making decisions. The first one is logical, rational decision. The second is emotional-based decision. So remember, you can't control the first impulse, but you can always train the second. So the first decision comes from your habit brain, your limbic brain, okay? But the second comes from your trained self, the PFC, the prefrontal brain. So as neuronuggets, remember that impulse is fossil, okay? Response is alive. Our brain is made for survival. So whatever impulse you free yourself to, you don't have control over it. You don't need more discipline. Discipline doesn't have to be painful. You need trained second decisions. We spoke about it last week, so you'll be able to go through the slides when we'll share them or play the replay. But basically, discipline doesn't have to be painful. It doesn't have to feel heavy on the shoulders. You just need to reshape your mindset. FOMO, for me, is unprocessed energy. It's energy we did not process yet, and we are just absorbing it. We are becoming victim of it. So breathe through it. You'll see, like, breathing is simple yet very powerful. So don't underestimate it. You can ask, this is my favorite neural nugget, would my future self take this trade, or what would my future self do? You know, envision future self engraving. You embed yourself in a future visualization vision, and that helps you to shape and to connect yourself to the self image you want to become, not to the self image you perceive yourself in the past. And so speed is not skill, clarity is. Why do you want to get a payout in 5 days? Is it better to have a payout in 12 days, or is it better to have no payouts? How many of you have tried to get a payout in 5 days, and how many of you didn't succeed? And what if you told yourself, I want to get a payout. I don't count the days. I just want to trade. You trade. You don't count the P&L. You don't count the winning day. You just trade. And guess what? After several days, you'll be eligible for a payout, and you'll pay out. But why do you think so many people, and I see this every single day, and I've been the victim of it as well. Why do you think so many people, they tell exactly, even yesterday, I read it. Oh, I had 4 out of 5 winning days. Today, I just needed to make an extra 200, and I blew my 10,000 account. Why? Why does this happen? Because your perception shapes your intention. So your perception is, I got to do my winning day today so I can get my payout. So your intention is to rush the trade because you want to rush the payout. If your perception is, this is a normal day, no payout in your mind, you're like, okay, I got to trade. You trade, you check your account. Oh, I'm eligible for a payout, and you make the payout. And you can trust me, this is the main difference between the people who can take a payout and people who can't. It's about how you perceive it. So there we go to cognitive remodeling. Emotion writes the story, and I like to say awareness edits it. So the DMN, the default mode network, it ties past emotional experiences to current moments. Okay? Ties past emotional experiences to current moments. So you can interrupt the loop and rescript the story. You don't need to leave the same thing again. Who dictated that? Who said that you need to leave the same thing? Your brain did. But do you accept it? That's another question. So this is why emotional memory distorts your perception. When we see something that happened in the past, we think it's going to happen the same way. So basically, if you had a loss and you have the same pattern 1 month later occurring in front of you, you're going to think, oh, that's when I lost, so I'm not going to take this trade because I'm going to lose. This is exactly this. And this is why changing the meaning attached to pain can change your perception. You change the language, you change the code, you change the sentence, you change the system. If you miss a breakout, how many people, even on TopstepTV, people say, hey, here I go again, always late, always missed it, etc. And that's not reality. That's an internal narrative.
Mm-hmm.
That's what your emotions tell you, right?
But it's also partially maybe victimhood. Oh, there we go. I missed that again. It always happens to me, and blah, blah, blah. So, I never like when I see people talking about themselves and their abilities like that, because, like you said, it shapes your brain in a certain way that sort of steers you towards, oh, I'm not competent. So when we change that and say, no, we'll get better at this. It's
exactly, for example.
Exactly. Much kinder.
And one goes with the other. I mean, emotion and awareness have to go together. Again, we are human beings, right? We are not robots. I'm not telling you to not have emotions. I'm not telling you to reject or deny your emotions or feelings. No, not at all. We are telling you exactly the opposite, to embrace them, to learn how to embrace them, how to go with them. So then for this module, the cognitive remodeling, as nuggets, you have your story is a software. Okay, rewrite the code. That's something you can keep in mind. You don't fear the market. You fear what you believe it means. And trust me, this is something I realized myself. Perhaps it doesn't make sense for you said this way, but for me, it makes a lot of sense. I don't fear the market. I fear what I believe it means. I fear that if I long and it goes down, I fear I'm wrong. But what does this fear come from? The chart didn't insult you. That's very funny. I loved writing that. The chart didn't insult you. Your inner critic did, right? Why do people get angry when they lose? I mean, of course, we get that, losing, physical pain, etc. But some people, they look like offended by the by what the
Yeah, by
market
the
did, right?
charts. Yeah, yeah.
Exactly.
And you offended me. That's why I like to say, if I have not such a great day, I would say things like, "Oh, gold was mean to me today."
That's so sweet.
Yeah.
That's so sweet. And when you reframe, what are you doing? Doing this, you're doing plasticity. You're
Yeah.
reframing your plasticity. So every rewarded thought is a neural shift. Remember, um, you can trade from your past or from your vision, right?
Yeah.
You can get stuck in the past, or you can trade from your future self, your future vision. So there's what we call the reframe drill. So think of a repeated negative pattern, write down the auto thought that comes to your mind, and now reframe it using identity and growth. This is a practice we've been through last week. So, example, I always lose after big wins. Instead of saying that, then tell yourself, I'm learning to regulate momentum. For example, if big wins make you put you in a position in which you think you feel, oh, I had a big win and I'm stressed, I'm like, the process of thinking that makes you not being in calm and presence. So when you realize this, okay, instead of telling to yourself, oh, after big wins, I have a tendency of losing, which, how do people solve that? They take a break. But a break might help, but it's called an eviction attempt. It's escaping attempt. So you escape, right? It's like in therapy. When people have a fight, for example, what most people do when they fight? They don't talk to each other. Eviction attempt, escaping attempt. This doesn't solve anything. This cools the heat during the moment, but it damages the relationship later, right? So by doing this, you damage your own relationship, the relationship with yourself, you know?
Yeah.
So this is something you need to think about. And the fourth module we've been through last week was self-coaching installation. Uh, you are not your reactivity, you are what you train, right? Uh, if on a in everyday life, forget about trading. If somebody annoys you and you react to this event, your reaction is what you are trained on, right? I mean, if you have a bad ability to canalize your anger, your stress, and you instantly in a spark like gets out rage mode, completely furious, then you don't have any ability to manage your emotions. But if somebody pushes you or insults you, or if a car drives in front of you and you don't get angry and you manage your emotions and your feeling and your flows, then you are rewiring, then you are building the new self. You are not
Yeah.
surrendering yourself.
I spoke about the road rage at one point, and you really have people who are annoyed at every single driver on the road, and they're flipping people off, they're swearing, and sometimes they're really nice people outside of the car. Then you get into the car with them, and they're just like this like monstrous person, just swearing at everyone, and it's like, "Meh." So I liken that to people who also get annoyed after losing a trade, especially if the trade was not very well thought out. I think it comes from the same part of you, not being able to stop yourself in the moment and just go, hold up. Challenging moment. Let me pause for a second and see how I can make this into a nicer situation and not add, fuel to fire effectively. I think as traders, as you learn to regulate yourself and replace some of these like negative responses, it will seep into the rest of your life. It's not just going to stay for trading, and it definitely changes who we are as people. Don't you think?
I completely agree. There's a
Yeah.
saying and a lot of videos on social networks that say that, like, before day trading, after day trading, like after day trading, whatever happens in life, it's like, yeah, okay, Yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
no,
You know, like
your
that.
emotional, yeah, your
Yeah,
emotional response is
exactly.
so much lower to stuff around you. It's like, yeah,
Exactly. The
whatever.
tolerance is so high, and this cannot
Yeah,
impact me. You don't know what I'm living on a day-to-day basis
yeah,
in front of the charts. Like, and so
exactly. It's like you have no idea what Nasdaq does to me. It's like this is nothing, man, nothing.
exactly. Um, so for this, for the self-coaching installation, you can use an end of day prompt. So we shared what part of me traded today. When was I
I
proud,
like that.
or was I proud? This is a question you can ask yourself. Sometimes I have one, for example, and I was not proud of the trade. I found myself saying, oh yeah, I was definitely lucky. The entry was awful. I've been lucky, but this is not a trade I am proud of. And being honest with yourself will help you to shape your identity. So next time there's a likeliness, I will not take again this trade, or I will step back and take a moment before taking this trade. What pattern do I want to rewire tomorrow? And then you have the nuggets. So self-awareness is a skill, not a trait. It's not you don't have it. We all have it. You're just gonna build it. You're just gonna uh, use it. Train it. The more you train it, the bigger it gets. The bigger it gets, the more powerful it is. The more powerful it is, the more you will use it. See, it's a cycle. Repetition rewires reality. Remember, plasticity is reps, 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 reps. Think about like sport, athlete. Repetition rewires your brain. The more you repeat, the more you wire. The more you wire, the more you build the networks.
I really like how you said repetition rewires your reality. So let's just slightly touch upon that. So when we're
Yes, please.
talking about all of this neuroscience stuff, people are like, oh, wow, this is very useful. Or some people are like, oh, this is boring. What are we doing here? Are we trading, not trading? It's like we are trying to set some really good habits to enable you to become the person that you want to be in the future, the trader that you would like to be, that will be in a position to reach all of your goals. But you're not going to get there just by sitting there clicking buttons and hoping that it's all magically going to work out. So, this is why it's important to be aware of certain negative patterns that we all have. Nobody is naturally a great trader. Maybe one or two people that I've met in my life are. The rest of us mortals, we have to work on it, right? And there's a lot of introspection that goes into that. I'm so glad that we're doing these sessions, because I've learned on my own for so long. And just to have somebody like Jerome here who's guiding us through this from a very expert eye is absolutely invaluable. Like, I know that I've even gone back to some of my little issues that I still occasionally have, and I was like, oh, that helped, especially the visualization side, because I do visualizations by myself, but I've never done it with somebody guiding me through them. So I've had a couple of epiphanies recently. They're not massive, I'm a pretty advanced trader at this point, but still, like, for example, I used to have this pattern that every time I take a payout, I immediately have a bad day. And I would come back from it, but I never used to do anything to actually control that, because I'm like, oh, it's just that one day that I have after a payout. Like, it doesn't matter. But this time around, I was like, okay, this is a pattern. Let's try and replace it. And I managed to go through this cycle where I didn't have a bad day after a payout. That's never happened to me before. So again, I wanted to thank you, Jerome, for your guided assistance last week, for me to kind of become more aware of, some of my little bugs that I still have, and gremlins that still bug me.
Well, thank you very much. This means a lot, and we hope it helps a lot of people. And you can trust me, doing these for community helped me as well. It reminds me of, it's reminders, it's things
Yeah.
I have in my mind, but I don't apply on a day-to-day basis. So preparing
Yeah.
these makes a lot of work and helped me a lot as well. So
Yeah.
basically what you described is this, you used to have this emotional memory anchored, that when you take a payout, you lose usually. It's like when
Yeah.
I have a big day, I'm losing. It's slightly
Yeah.
different. So you had
It's the
this
same. Yeah.
this emotional memory. So you had to overcome it, and I'm very happy you did it. So yeah,
Well,
and
we
the
did it
goal,
for the first time. We'll see what happens next time, right? So it's like now
and you
it's
need to repeat. That's the
yes,
easiest
yeah,
part. The hardest
yeah.
part is to start. The easiest part is to repeat. Repetition rewires reality.
Hmm.
This is the easiest part. When you go to the gym, the hardest session is the first one, right? How many people
Yeah,
do we know that they got in the gym, they went zero or
yeah.
once and then no more? Um, Statistics don't lie, right? So uh, for the viewers, these sessions on Wednesday, the Neuro Wednesday sessions are made so we're not gonna, at least I'm not gonna teach you technicals. We're not gonna teach you how to trade, but rather how the brain work with emotions and thinking, so you can understand how habits are built. And we strongly believe that our habits shape our character, our personality, and your personality shapes your habits in reverse way, right? Your personality will shapes your beliefs. Your personality will shape your perception. Your personality will shape your understanding, etc., your intention. So all of this is a cycle. And so when you understand how to be aware about your bad habits, how to be aware about your good habits, and how the habit cycle work in the brain and the body, you'll be able to reduce the bad habits, to enhance uh, the good habits. And this exact process is what we use in therapy. Remember, last week we expressed uh, we don't delete things in the brain, we replace them. So, for example, in compulsive behavioral therapies, we teach this to people, for people who want to quit smoking, people who want to quit compulsive eating, for example. We teach this to them. We teach them how habits work, how the brain work, how biology work, and how we can work to replace them, and how with time the neural network will shape itself differently. So basically, and actually MP uh, gave me the light. Topstep does these shorts on YouTube, and they have like hundreds of them. And one of these shorts, Michael said, your small habits shape your trading. Like, he emphasized it in a way like I had an eureka moment, and I was like, okay, I have to pay attention to my small habits on a day-to-day basis and improve them. And that's what I've been working on. And I found it very powerful. It improved my trading, improved my performance as well, but my process is becoming better, and that's how I can focus on process over performance.
Hmm. Excellent. I'm very glad to hear that. Michael has a lot of nuggets that he spills out whenever he's live. He is a pit trader, right? So he's been doing this for a very long time. He does have that pit trader mentality where, they were working more from the whole fight or flight response, because once the market was open, they needed to fight to get in there. And I see that in a lot of them who come from the floor. I see it in Hogue, I see it in Eddie. Not so much Hogue anymore, but definitely see it in, used to see it in Coach Hoop as well. They're all pit traders, and it was a very different edge. Right now, we have to stay aware of our own selves. But back then, you had to stay aware of other people around you. And, it was a very, very violent environment where, people were pushing and shoving and shouting. And I think it's this huge adjustment to come from that into a place where you have to be all zen and like, and all of that. So it must have been such a journey for them. And I think some of them are still struggling with that. But at the same time, they all have so much experience that it's absolutely amazing when they're talking about how they've managed to adapt themselves coming into electronic trading from the pit, from the floor, from the pit trading. So yeah,
It's
Michael,
yeah.
always talks so much sense. Whenever he's like saying, oh, size down, um, don't blow through a million combines. I respect him for that a lot, because he's one of the few CEOs that does talk about that. Others are like, yeah, whatever, we just trade. By the way, I entered a long on copper, so
Let's
it's
go. Here we
yeah.
go.
So
Here we go.
My entry is
Yeah,
at
for the pit trader,
490.95. So let's see how that
for
goes.
1995. Beautiful.
Yeah, and I'm in with 2 full copper trades, so I might get smacked in the face here if this doesn't go well. But hey,
Or might
let's
not.
go.
Let's go. Let's go. So let's go into today's session. So the first topic is the science of interrupting tilt, what we call neurocircuit breakers. You have velocity breakers in the CME contracts, the future contracts in the brain. You have neurocircuit breakers.
I was just thinking that, Jerome. I was like, breakers? It's like CME breakers, and then you said it. It's amazing.
I was like, for sure, somebody's gonna think about it. I gotta say it.
Yeah.
So tilt is what we call a limbic hijack. So we've been repeating it and repeating it. So by the way, in a month, we're gonna have a test, an exam. No, just kidding, just kidding. So
Ooh.
the amygdala sends distress signal faster than the PFC can regulate them. So basically, when your emotional centers take over, your rational, logical, cognitive zones are shut down. So you think with emotions, not with rational thinking. So your breath, your language, and posture are your fastest circuit breakers. We call it the 3 Bs. I forgot to put it in the slide. So it's body, breath, and brain. These are the 3 elements that are the fastest circuit breakers in the body. That's why I've been telling you and telling you and telling you that breath is underrated, because it's one of the 3 fastest circuit breakers in the body. So basically, emotional hijack happens within 150 to 300 milliseconds. Very fast. The average reactive time, and we shared that during the first Neuro Wednesday session, is approximately 300 milliseconds. So it's basically the same time, if not faster. But the problem is re-engagement, refocus of the PFC, the cognitive zone, takes 7 to 10 seconds, even with breath, language, and awareness. So if you don't do this, imagine how long it could take. You know, you are blocked. You remember last week we said a sentence. You trade the emotion you are in from the last trade you put on. And this is because you let emotional hijack happening. But if you're not aware of it, then you can't do anything about it. But if you follow Neuro Wednesday sessions, at least you'll know that you can be aware of it. And awareness is the first door, right? So as a practice, trigger awareness. I feel tilt coming. Okay, I feel it. I can see it. I can see it. I can see tilt coming. The goal is not to freak out. The goal is to be aware of it, right? If you feel tilt when you are tilted, then you will never say, I feel tilt coming. You will say, I am tilted. You know, I am tilted. I put 175 trades in 5 minutes. I am tilted, you know? So before doing that, be aware of it. I feel tilt coming. So as a protocol, prescription of the doctor, 2 cycles of inhale 4 seconds, exhale 8 seconds, and that would instantly like calm yourself. You know, that will calm yourself. Drop your shoulders instead of being like that. Shoulders.
Yeah, shoulders
in,
up
you know?
here. Yeah.
Correct your posture, straight spine, you know. Breathe in and whisper, this is a wave, not a war. And perhaps this sentence would be meaningless to you. Perhaps you would say, what is this sentence? Then the people who will try it will feel the difference. Whatever you, language, remember language, breath, language, and posture are your fastest circuit breakers. If you don't believe in language, then tell yourself you are bad, and you will tell me if you have success. If you are successful telling yourself you are bad. I don't know anybody successful in life telling themselves I am bad. You know, it's rationalism.
Yeah.
So the second thing is, we've spoke about it as well, is Neurometrics over PNL. So let's call it the new performance dashboard that you will have on the new Topstep dashboard. I'm not joking again. So the real alpha is behavioral consistency. So
Yeah,
last week we shared,
it will come with a device, and you have to wear it while you're trading. That's all a part of the new dashboard.
exactly. So last week we said that neutral is the new alpha, and also behavioral consistency is an alpha I love. So
Yeah.
your nervous system is, at least for me, my first chart. I have a chart here before watching a chart on my screen. And in my humble opinion, traders with better interoceptive awareness make fewer impulsive trades. Reread this again. I'm not saying that traders with better interoceptive awareness make better traders. I'm saying they make fewer impulsive trades. That means you will lose less. I'm not teaching you to win more. I'm teaching you to lose less, at least. So as a practice, try to track these 3 metrics after every single session. Okay, so first metric, the percentage of trades taken with deep breath before click. And if the answer is none, it's okay. There's no right or wrong answer. The goal is to track your progress over the sessions. Let's say today you are at 0, tomorrow you are at 0, but Friday you are at 2. Wow, guess what? You improved. And Monday you are at 4, you improve like that. You build the habit. Second metric, the reactivity, the number of reactivity impulses noticed but not acted on. So this is the number of times you've been aware that you're not in your ideal, calm, present state of trading, and you notice it and you don't act on it. Don't act means you don't trade on it. You act like with the practice we share. But note that as well. You'll know that, oh, today I found myself 2 times in tilt, 1 time in hesitation. And out of these 3 times, there's 2 times, unfortunately, I took the trade. I couldn't control myself. But the third time, I found myself controlling myself and not acting upon. And this will help you upon times as well. And the third metric is dominant emotional state across the session. So this is part of emotional journaling as well. So every day we have a dominant emotional state, calm, present, tilt, or overwhelmed. And you have it on the slides previously, so you have all the charts and the tables. So basically, if you are able to track these, and Hogue said it yesterday, and we say it every time, nobody wants to do this. Nobody wants to journal and to take time and energy upon anything that is not money. But guess what? This will help you to save and perhaps create more wealth, more money. And remember, whatever we are sharing on Neuro Wednesdays, of course, it is targeted for trading, but most of it, you can use it on a day-to-day life basis as well. We are sharing neuroscience. It's neuroscience for trading, but trading is not like the brain, right? The brain uses skills to trade.
Yes, it
So
applies to
what do you
anything.
think about this, Coach Deeyana?
Yeah. I like this for the reason that I think I inadvertently do something that is a part of this practice. Now, for example, back in the day when I first started trading, this was a long time ago, I was trying to control myself, God, what's my hair doing? Trying to fish for my own weaknesses, like stuff that was harming my P&L the most. And I caught myself a couple of times losing a trade, which was supposed to be a swing trade at that point. I wasn't yet an intraday trader a long time ago. And I noticed that I usually did like maybe 3 trades in like a couple of weeks. But then if I would lose one, I had this like reaction to immediately try again, to like immediately enter another trade. So I realized that was harming me quite a bit. And since then, I actually had a Post-it note. I still have a stack of Post-it notes whenever I need to remember something. So I basically write down whatever I need. I put it on my screen, but then I also set an alarm to remind me throughout the day. So it like blares at me and goes, hey, this is what you need to remember today. But for me, it was really powerful to lose a trade and then to go, okay, now we wait. That's the mantra that I give to myself every single time I lose a trade. Even to this day, it's just become something that is a part of me. Not like, oh, let me get it back. No, it's like you lose a trade, and I say to myself inside my brain, okay, now we wait. And it's amazing at how much it stops the impulsive behaviors, because I'm telling myself that I don't have enough data to act upon the same idea that I tried to do just a couple of minutes ago. And therefore, I'm preventing impulsive decisions that'll lead to bad P&L or derailing your account entirely. So
Good.
am I doing that right? Am I,
Completely. You are
yeah,
what I call a free dopamine junkie. It's
yeah,
not pejorative, but for me, we are all victim of dopamine
yeah,
behaviors, and because of social networks and many other stimulus, we are victims of our dopamine thresholds. And so basically, people who want to get absolutely, who want to re-enter after a loss, they are under the dopamine, they
yeah,
lost,
yeah,
so they have a dopamine shutdown, so their
yeah.
brain tells them you want more, you need to fill this gap, and so they need to re-enter a trade to feel something, they need to feel something. So basically the fact that you did that and you keep doing it and you reinforce the the solution you have, so remember, what do we speak about? First step, awareness. Okay. Second step, non-identification. Do not identify yourself with what is happening. Third step, moving forward. So you did the first, you did the second, and then you are repeating the third. Remember, repetition rewires reality. So now for you, your perception, your reality is, I don't need any more to enter after a losing trend. And you can even, I'm going to ask it to you, you can even find yourself, why did I want to enter after a losing trade? You cannot understand why you would do that. I mean, you know it, but the feelings you have today are better, aren't they? For example, myself, people who watch me trade, they know I don't trade the first 30 minutes of the US session. Okay. But every day I might have a setup, right? But every day I tell myself, oh, there's a good long, oh, there's a good short. Do I take the trade? No, because I want to reinforce the no-go action. If I take the trade, I reinforce, I weaken my ability to control myself not trading during this moment. I surrender myself to my emotions. Oh, I think that this is a good setup. No, Jerome, in the morning, French time, you have your session. In the afternoon, you have your session. I know the exact windows of time my models operate, and that's it. And I don't trade outside of these windows. Guess what happened when I trade outside of these windows? I lose. I mean, it's
It's funny you
obvious.
say that. So we had a question from Mike. Is it Konza? Mike Konza. Yeah, I think he asked whether I feel FOMO if I don't. Mike Koza. Sorry, excuse me for butchering your name there. Whether I feel FOMO if I don't trade during London. But I answered that I work in day trading time zones across the two sessions where I'm active, and I call them DTTZs, day trading time zones. So what are they based on? Yes, they are based on some data and the behavior of the actual markets and products that I trade, but mainly they are based on my own previous performance, right? When is the window that I do well? So I have about 5 different parts in like the two sessions, and that's across 3, 4 different asset classes. It's not just like one thing. So for example, in the morning, I also wait, like you, Jerome, I wait for a certain period to pass. And to me, it's actually the full first hour. There are some setups that appear during that time, but traditionally I'm not very good at taking advantage of them. So I stay out. At this point, after nearly 20 years of doing this, I'm just like, you know what? I can't be bothered, playing the game of, oh, is it going to be once in a blue moon time when this setup does work and I can make good money from it? Or is it going to be the 70% when I don't do well and now I'm staring at a day that's starting off not that great? And, just for my own peace of mind, this is the reason why I started running these sessions a little bit later, because this is the window where I usually find my setups, right? We already have the initial balance extension on most days. We already have some sort of a decision from the other time frame participants, and my setups tend to work out much better. Now, granted, my second part of the day is between 11 to 1 p.m. my time, so that's coming in about like half an hour. But usually I dedicate that time towards DAX, which we still don't have on Topstep. So, it wouldn't be much sense for me to sit here and just go, yeah, let's start the Euro session at 11, because that's when I trade well. So, I try to fit the products that are traded in those day trading time zones. And then I have an hour when I typically don't do well. So between my 2 and 3 p.m., I suck. For years I've seen it happen where I try to do the trades, and yeah, maybe once every so often I get a gap fill. It's like, oh, whoopee. But all the other times do not make up for the fact that between 2 and 3 p.m., of GMT, so UK time, I just don't do well. So why would I waste my time? That's why I've formulated my day so that I go and, walk my dogs, or I go do some grocery shopping, or do anything else that's going to keep me away from actually trading. Sometimes I do the VIP sessions during that time, because I don't want to trade during that time. It's a very selfish reason, right? Keep D away from charts, doing something else during the time when historically she hasn't performed well. And then the next day trading time zone is that part after what we call the NY cut option expiry. That's after my 3 p.m. and then all the way up to New York lunchtime. That is my sort of like third day trading time zone. Then I have the fade of COMEX into settlement. That's the fourth one. And the final one is power hour. And that's usually reserved if I want to trade a YM or ES or something of the equities kind. So, knowing yourself, knowing your data, I take a lot of comfort in data myself with like numbers and, putting things in probabilities. Is this a day when, for example, we have the sustained auction and one-sided extension in copper, or is this going to be the day of lower probability of like 34% or so when we have the neutral day? So to me, that really sorts out any sort of bugs and gremlins that I might have kicking around in my head. Because if I have a loss as a result of me chasing a directional move that we see a lot in copper, but we end up in a neutral day, I'm not going to get all upset about it. I'm just going to be like, okay, this is a 30% day. Cool. So I don't need to trade. I don't freak out over it. And I frankly don't care at this point whether we have a neutral day, because I know the stats tell me what I know is true, if that makes sense.
Beautiful. Thank you very much for all this information. Please chat, learn from that. This is progressive building. I mean, she's been building this. She can identify, Coach Deeyana can identify the market conditions and the market environment she is comfortable in and not comfortable in. And it reminds me of Alex Ferreira. He says, I know when the snow is on my side, when it's not, if it's snowing, if it's raining, the quality of the snow, etc. And in the market, it's the same. If we have CPI today, I know it's going to be a violent day. If we have no news day, I know it's more likely, not necessarily, but more likely going to be a choppy day, sort of like that. You have some market, some conditions, rules that do not apply every time, but you should be aware of. And I love your DDTZ, DTTs, day trading time zone.
Time
DTTs.
zones, yeah.
Okay.
DTTs,
So I love that.
yeah.
And yeah, you should know when you are good and when you are bad. And for me, it's been very important to identify that, because I used to trade the whole day, right? Initially, I used to trade the New York session. Then I migrated to the London session. And then I used to trade the whole day. I was like, okay, there's a setup, there's a setup, there's a setup. And between 11 a.m. French time, so 20 minutes ago, to 2 p.m., so French time again, I call it the death zone. It's called the death zone because you have crazy movements. So some people like to trade it. Personally, it's a death zone to me. Like for me, it's like I'm gonna die if I trade in this time zone, so I don't do it. But back in the day, I used to place trade during this time zone, and I reflect on myself. I'm like, dude, you were crazy. I mean, it's
Yeah, we all have those moments. It's like, what were you doing there? I reflect on some of my trades that I used to do with the very, very beginning. Like I'm talking like first sort of 3 months when I went into intraday to work for a prop company, and I came from swing trading. So It was a big adjustment, and I also thought that you need to like do like a ton of trades and everything. Now, to be fair, I did have a market making position once after that job. Hated it, absolutely hated it. They give you a quota to fill on the day, like, oh, here you go, fill 1,000 lots today, and you're like, what? Like, and I came from trading like one trade every 2 weeks. So I needed to kind of try and find myself in there. And you didn't necessarily need to do 1,000 trades a day, but you had to trade with quite some size. So I didn't like it. I did okay, but I just felt so stressed out because, to fill 1,000 lots in a day, it's so much work. My eyes were bloodshot. I wasn't sleeping well. I was just like, I was in a mess. And I thought to myself, I can't be doing this career for the next like 30 years. I'm gonna die in 10.
Yeah, it's so intense.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, thank you for these gains. So we spoke about how wins and how losses impact our biology and thinking. So what you could help yourself with is like with a predictive state mapping, how your brain trades tomorrow based on today or yesterday. So what you rehearse emotionally today becomes your default tomorrow. Okay, if you win big today and you tell yourself, okay, and you start freaking out for tomorrow, then you are rehearsing emotionally today for what's going to become your default tomorrow, right? So your brain is predictive, not reactive. Of course, it reacts, but your brain is predictive. It forecasts behavior based on past emotional input. And we talked about it. If you had a loss and it looks like you have the same setup, you're going to think, oh, if I take this trade, I might lose like last time, because your brain is going to make you feel and think that the past emotional input is the same as the future one, which is not. And this is why self-esteem is a huge thing in life and in trading. Let's say you're a man, you like girls, and you go to a girl and she rejects you. Okay, your self-esteem gets lowered. Then there's another girl that looks like the first one. Most probably your brain is going to tell you you're going to get rejected. It's the same cycle, the same thing. It's like
Sometimes they
exam.
tell you that too.
Sorry.
Sometimes they tell you that as well.
Yeah,
Like I
sometimes.
remember before I met my husband, I actually had dark hair, and I was talking to someone, and he goes, no, I'm not talking to you," and I was like, "I'm sorry, what?" And he goes, no, I know how you brunettes operate. It's like, whoa, man, baggage. Okay, won't talk to you either then. Goodbye. But yeah, it's quite funny how you just mentioned that, and it just popped into my head. I'm like, yeah, been there.
Funny.
Yeah.
Very funny. So in terms of science, it's your DMN, the default mode network, and what we
Yeah.
call the salience network that shape your behavior through emotional memory tagging. Okay. And there's a sentence many people know: what fires together wires together. This is called the Hebb's principle, HEBB. So each emotional pattern builds future bias. Example: you hit a big win, overconfidence loop is getting built. You're like, oh, I'm a winner, I'm a god, I'm knowing this market. You take a revenge trade, you tag a loss with urgency. Then right after or the next day, faster reactivity. So end of day reflection: what emotion did I rehearse today? And what do I want to rehearse tomorrow instead? You make an assessment of what happened today, and you make a forecast on what you would like to achieve tomorrow. And guess what? If tomorrow you fail, did you fail? No. You are improving, you are maturing, you are building, you are progressing, right? Don't be harsh on yourself. So then we go to the execution IQ, upgrading the mental micro. So these are examples, but let's say you have a trigger. You always have an old response, and when you identify this old answer, this old behavior, you can think about the new insert, the new component, the new behavior you want to cultivate, you want to nurture, and we'll call it the upgrade. So let's say you miss a move. Usually people chase it, right? When they miss a move, usually people chase it. So instead of that, put it on a post-it if you want. Sit, breathe, and watch. Stay like that. You sit, you breathe, you watch. But if you follow that, you will reinforce your capacity of not taking the trade, not chasing. And this is a two-component solution. So you don't chase and you build resilience. You build discipline. Okay. So let's say you are up 3R. The old answer would be ego trade. I'm up 3R. I'm good. I can risk one, for example. But do you want it? If you don't really, if your intention is not that, if it's your emotion speaking, then you don't know it. But if you take time to think about it, do I really want that? No, I want to keep my profits. I don't need an extra trade. Okay, protect identity, not profit. Okay, have identity integrity, but you need to know who you want to be, right? We speak about your future self. If you don't ask to yourself who you want to be, do you think I'm going to give it to you, give the answer to you? Do you think Coach Deeyana is going to give it to you? No. You got to do for yourself what you can do, and only you can do. I can teach you how to process thoughts better, emotions better. Coach Deeyana can help you to do this as well. She can help you to manage your technical side as well. But she can't manage your self-image. She can't manage your ability to envision your future self. You have to do it. But we are here to help you on this path. You are not alone. We are together. Another trigger is a fast move, for example. The market moves fast. We feel FOMO, classic, right? Oh, there's a trend. I don't want to miss it. So you can tell yourself, if it's fast, I slow down. Fast market, slow Jerome. Slow market, fast Jerome, sort of.
Love that.
And this is like a pacing loop,
Yeah.
You don't need to be fast in a fast environment. And, you mentioned the pit traders. In my humble opinion, it's harder for pit traders to transition to electronic trading because
I agree.
they have this whole package that they have to rewire. Indeed, we need
Yeah.
to rewire ourselves from our past. But I wasn't a trader in the past, right? But they were. But they have to reshape the trader they were, because in the pit, it's very, very fast. Everybody's like yelling and moving, etc. So you feel, your body will feel the urge to make a move. Do you think you can sit like that during fast markets at the pit? I don't think so. I mean, perhaps, but I don't think it's as
No, you
easy as
see
it
it
is.
in MP when he used to be on fast markets as well. As soon as the markets would be open, he's like, "I'm short." It's because that's what they used to do. Like the markets would go, bell would go, and they used to like, "All right, let's go." And it's very difficult to rewire yourself to not do that and to go. Markets are open, everything's moving. I am calm, I am zen, right? It's like a completely different activity now. And you're right. I do think they are somewhat disadvantaged having to come from the pit to electronic trading. And honestly, many of them didn't make it. Many of the old pit traders never really made that transition, and they struggled, and then they decided to go and do other careers. The people that we see on Topstep are one of the minority pit traders who did make the transition and are, in my eyes, probably a lot more open-minded. And they, like, for example, I know about Hogue that he just said to himself, all right, I need to relearn how to do this now. This is different. It's not the same thing. I don't have the same edge. I don't have Goldman over there and somebody else over there to see what they're doing. So let's start over. Now that takes a lot of guts, especially if you have like 20 years behind you already doing things one way, and suddenly technology moves on. And you're like, oh, okay, now I need to throw all of that out and learn some of the new stuff. It's very tough, but at the same time, it's also difficult to come from an impulsive background where maybe you're a business person and maybe you weren't a trader, but in your business, your drive, ambition, and sheer resilience to admit defeat has served you well in business, but it's not going to serve you well in trading, because if you refuse to admit defeat, that means a blown up account because you don't want to give up. So there is a time when you just have to go, all right, market, you win today. Walking away. It's very
Exactly.
difficult. Yeah.
Completely agree. Thank you. And execution is a loop. Indeed, you have a state.
Yeah.
Your state dictates your interpretation. Your interpretation leads to an impulse. The impulse can lead or not to an override of emotions, and then that leads to your execution. It's a very thorough process in the brain, and we call them micro steps, if not nano steps. It's not just executing. And as a brain specialist, I can tell you execution processes are way more complex than what you think it is. I'm giving you the easiest sort of presentation of what execution making processes are in the brain, but it's fascinating. So basically, in terms of science, 95% of decisions are made subconsciously, automatically, based on stored emotion and habit. What does this mean? It means your habits, your personality dictates your execution in life and in trading. Remember, we spoke about road rage. So somebody reacting impulsively, executing anger, is somebody who is reacting subconsciously. That means they don't have the training necessary to calm themselves. It's a whole connected loop. So
Yeah.
traders must build what we call a metacognitive gap between feeling and execution. So then we come to hesitation. So hesitation isn't fear of the trade, it's fear of what the trade means. So uncertainty activates the insula and ACC, okay? And this signal error detection and emotional risk, not strategy error. So basically, when you hesitate, and remember, you can have sweaty hands, etc. We have it on the slides. You can review it. We spoke about it last week. So you can identify, you can be aware of your body and mind being hesitating mode. Okay. So for example, you see a valid setup, but you hesitate. But often you hesitate because past trades tag that setup with emotional loss. You're like, I don't know. Last time I took the Orbi break, I lost. You see, you're gonna trigger a past emotion.
So do
Yeah,
you
go ahead.
think defining your setups systematically might help with that? Like if you know that you were involved in a very good setup that kind of worked over and over, would that maybe help with this process?
Completely. Thank you.
Yeah.
Completely, because you follow your plan.
Yeah.
Hesitation comes from uncertainty. So if you don't follow it might sound stupid, but you have a plan. Okay, entry, exit, stop, profit. If you don't follow your plan, that means you are in unknown territory, right? If you are in unknown territory, you're not safe. If you're not safe, you're going to feel it. And you feel it through hesitation, you feel it through tilt, you feel it through frustration, etc. So completely agree. You need to have a clear plan, clear setup. But beyond the setup, you have the setup you enter, but you need to have a clear exit plan as well. Because how many
Yeah.
people have a clear setup they enter, but they can't handle the trade? Oh, I'm $200 in profit, I'm going to get out. But
Yeah. Yeah.
your TP
Yeah.
was 350 and your stop was 200. Why did
Yeah,
you get out? I've freaked out.
exactly. Yeah. Oh, I had a few takes. I got out. In fact, before we went live, we were talking about the trade durations and the fact that both Jerome and I have pretty longish trade durations. Mine average, I think it's about 50 minutes, but my winners average is about 70 to 73 minutes, which is crazy. And then you see some people who are like, oh, 15 seconds or 2 minutes is like the biggest trade they've ever taken. And, how are you going to get the big risk reward if you're not putting time into it and just letting it run? Like, why are you taking 20 points when it went 2,000? Things like, oh, how do I get a better risk reward? Hold the trade longer. It's like identify the opportunity. Now, obviously, trade locations are very important. You can't be getting involved in the middle of nowhere and then expecting that that's going to have legs to survive for the next 3 hours. But, a part of not being able to hold a trade is definitely emotional. It has nothing to do with the actual strategy in the beginning. It's like, oh, it's 10 ticks, so I better take it. But what is that doing for your overall risk reward profile when you take in the next 1,000 trades into consideration? Is it advancing your P&L, or is it hurting you, bringing you into negative risk reward that is ultimately going to come back to bite you? Because it will. Negative risk reward gets everyone at some point in their career if they have it. That's why I always preach positive risk reward, even if it's a little positive, 1.3. You don't have to go to 2R. Just, let it run a little bit longer. There are exercises that you can do for endurance. Just like athletes practice their physical endurance, we can practice mental endurance. So if you had trouble holding trades, never mind the real account, go do a practice account. So if your average trade duration is 2 minutes, try and hold it to 4 minutes and don't touch. Breathe through it. Breathe through it. Train yourself. This is what we're talking about here.
Beautiful. Exactly. And also, we found a lot of people practicing on demo accounts and then complaining about the fact that they cannot reproduce what they made in the practice. But did you trade the practice the exact same way we are highlighting, the way you should approach, whether it is a combine, an XFA, or a live account? Definitely not. I mean, people, they oversize in practice and they say, I am able to make 10 Gs. Okay,
Yeah.
how did you do it? Oh, I put a trade with 5 minutes or 10 minutes and I let it. Okay,
I let it run.
I let
Exactly.
it
Yeah.
run. Let me see your
Your
journal, your
XFA.
report,
Yeah.
your trade
Yeah.
reports, but on your XFA, indeed. Oh, average trade duration 2 minutes, average contract size one
Yeah.
minute or 5 microns. I'm
Completely
like,
different person trading. Yeah,
exactly,
it's quite funny.
exactly.
I actually had that question yesterday when I ran my Mindset 150K subscribers session. Someone was asking that exact thing. He said, do you think that YOLOing it in the practice account is detrimental? And I'm like, yeah, because you're teaching your brain that it's okay to size up and let the trade run. But in reality, you're never going to do that in your real account because you can't even let your trade run, let alone let it run with some size. So what is the point of YOLOing it in the practice account? Just to make yourself feel better?
Exactly.
Trading fake
It,
money is like, I don't.
it's already super hard to build good habits, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's super hard. So why would you want yourself? Why would you want to put deliberately yourself in a position in which you build bad habits? I mean, it's already super hard to build good habits, but going on the practice account and YOLOing it or doing whatever you're doing, which is not your traditional trading style, then you are building bad habits or at least reinforcing them and not reinforcing good habits. So you are basically wasting time and energy, basically.
And you're also putting bad habits in because you're teaching your brain that it's a. I liken it to when I was talking about it. I said it's the same thing as thinking that paintball game where you go and shoot people with like paint guns, that it's the same conditions. That's the practice account. It's the same condition that getting deployed in Iraq and actually being under real fire, real conditions, and then thinking that those two are somehow useful. It's like, of course it's not going to be useful.
Not the
One is your
same, yeah.
friend shooting you with a paintball where there's no death threat, and another one is like bombs flying, people dying all over the place. And it's like, yeah, it's different. So you're not going to be prepared playing paintball to go and fight in Iraq. Yeah, exactly the same thing. So stop thinking that the practice account YOLOing is doing you any favors for the accounts where there's real risk, real skin in the game, real pressure, fear. Like it's scary stuff that can change your life or it can derail your life completely.
Exactly. Exactly. So then we go to the mental rollover, the day after effect. So what happens after a big win or big loss shapes the next session far more than the result itself. We've been saying it. So dopaminergic systems remain elevated or suppressed for up to 24 to 48 hours. Okay.
Wow.
If unregulated, the brain seeks confirmation or compensation via behavior. Please, this is the most important slide of the whole deck. If you have to keep one slide in your life and forget about trading, this is my favorite slide. If unregulated, the brain seeks confirmation or compensation via behavior. And this is the key to behavior compulsive therapy.
So,
So yeah,
question, is that
yeah,
why people have a desire to maybe like drink after a bad day or
yeah,
something?
exactly,
Because I
exactly.
see this a
Drink,
lot.
smoke, use drugs, or whatever, or even
Compensation.
even when you have a breakup, you need to compensate, that
Yeah.
that's a brain complete normal process. And as a med student, we felt it even in our studies. Like the first year in France used to be very hard, so you don't have like social life at all. And when you are in your second year, you're like, oh, I need to leave again. Your brain needs to compensate the whole past year you didn't do anything. And we felt it. We're like, oh, we need to go out every time. Your brain
Mm.
needs to compensate. So back in the day, I was way younger, so I didn't have this knowledge, etc. But we were aware that we were compensating. It's a concept we learned at uni as well. And yeah,
So would
so
you indulge in that? Like, let's say that you have a bad day and you kind of really feel like you need to blow off some steam. Some people reach for wine. Some people reach for the gym. Other people, I don't know, they have different outlets and stuff. But would you actually indulge in that kind of a compensative behavior then, or is it detrimental? Does it help or does it hinder?
thank you very much. So two dimensions. First dimension, uh, let's call them the escaping eviction attempts. So if you use drugs, alcohol, medication, or you have a sort of toxic, or gambling, for example, gambling is also part of that. These are all the actions you should not take, and that will damage you, and that will not help you. So you remember the cue craving response, the trigger, the chain
Yeah.
we showed. So uh, basically the thing is, when we lose, we absolutely want to make it back. But if you don't feel confident enough to make it back, you're going to find ways to forget the feeling of the loss. Okay. And that's exactly what happens. How many people do we know after work or after a bad emotional event, they sabotage themselves with drugs, alcohol, and stuff like
Yeah.
that? I know people, and I know
Loads.
a lot of patients like that. But these behaviors, they not only shapes and strengthen your bad habits, but they also narrow and close your ability to choose the second dimension of actions we could take that I'm going to highlight right now, which are, for example, which are the good actions. So let's say, for example, reading a book, going for a walk, or hitting the gym, or going to the swimming pool, or going on a holiday. Whatever action that doesn't have a direct physiological effect on your body and brain is good. Why? Because the first dimensional actions, these are psychoactive, psychotrops. These are, you use things to forget. When we drink, it is proven, ladies and gentlemen, when we drink, it reduces the amygdala, the insular intensity. So we feel better. Why? Because the drink makes it. Okay. So that is why when we drink, we feel better. That is why when we don't feel good, we want to reproduce this, because we know that when we drink, when we smoke, when we use this, for some people, it could be sex. Some people are addicted to sex, for example.
Yeah.
In therapy, we talk about it. So people know that the solution they use help them. But does it help them in a healthy way or toxic way? So for this
Okay.
first part, it's toxic. They know it
Yeah.
most of the time. They know it, but they are addicted to it. So we need to do a sort of therapy on it. For example, if you lose a trade and you smoke weed, for example, or you drink, but religiously every time you lose, then yeah, you're gonna end bad. I mean, it's not gonna end well for you, because you are building this loop. You're reinforcing this loop. But
Yeah, you're
let's say
effectively avoiding one bad behavior by reinforcing more bad behaviors
exactly.
elsewhere.
Exactly. And the
Makes
second
sense.
bad behavior makes you feel the first behavior left out, and that's why you want the second one. But guess what? If you win or lose, and you take a book or you call a family relative, for example, I have a habit. I like to call people when I finish my trade. So I have a disconnection. I like to do an action, an email, a call, whatever, push-ups, abs, whatever it is. I do something after a trade. Well, not when I'm on air, of course,
Yeah.
but something so I can build and cultivate these good habits. But it's very important. So uh, you should create a mental rollover routine. So let's say after a big win, you breathe, you reaffirm your process. So for example, every single day I am reaffirming my process over performance. I think
Mhm.
I started a brand new account. I didn't win yesterday. Today is my D0, okay, my
Mhm.
0 day, and this is my first day. So I trade it as is. And a morning after a big loss, it's the same. I journal the identity that was there yesterday and I want to become and I want to cultivate. And I ask myself, am I still trading yesterday or am I trading today? You know, if I find myself thinking about the past, I know I am not in the present.
Mhm.
But this is the first door, awareness. Then the second door is non identification. And then the first door is solution. Remember. So then we come to the habit loops: cue, craving, response, reward. So with awareness, you can interrupt the loop between craving and response. You have the cue, you have the craving. We spoke about it previously, right? The craving, drugs, alcohol, addictions, uh, whatever it is. When you are able to put awareness right in between the craving and the response, that's when you are able to change the answer. The answer, when we were speaking here, is, oh, I lose, therefore I drink. Oh, I win, therefore I drink, for example. But then, oh, I lost, I am aware that I feel this way, etc. And then you don't drink. That's how you change the response. For example,
Mhm.
Q, my wife got me angry, craving. I want to yell at her so bad. Awareness. Do I need to identify to this state? Does she need me to yell at her? Is it gonna change anything? Am I wise to do this? No, 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 no. Then you change your answer. Be centered, calm. It's perhaps easy said like that, but you can use this
Mhm.
loop for anything in life. Q, somebody drove in front of me, road rage, craving. I wanna get angry with this person. Oh, awareness. No, it's okay. It's one car. I'm not gonna.
Maybe they're in a
Awareness.
rush.
Yeah, exactly.
This is what
Maybe
I play in my games. Every time I have a challenging situation in front of me, I'm always wondering where that person is coming from. Even trolls online, we can do, people in chat who are sometimes not very kind to the on-air personalities, and I'm always like, who hurt you? Who hurt you today? Poor you. I never kind of default to, oh, let's attack them back or let's be super nasty back to them. I might just say, have you taken your meds today? Because obviously
but
something's
you
hurt
are
you.
wonderful. This is so powerful. Do you know this? Like, I don't think you estimate how powerful this mindset is.
I
It's
think it's
very
because I just don't react to things in the same way. We as traders you have to have thick skin for a lot of stuff, and for me being on Twitter and on YouTube and this and that, I've always had jobs where you're kind of pushed in the forefront, and I've had events in my life that were much more catastrophic. That I grew up in Yugoslavia. Nothing can hurt me. Let's just put it that way.
And you are a trader. I mean, double double up.
Yes, exactly. I think that's why I am a trader. By the way, I'm out of my copper position. It seems to be going into a neutral day. And again, this is something that copper does during London. Doesn't mean that there won't be opportunities later. So we just breathe and we just go, okay, next day trading time zone. It's all good, right? So you don't freak
Wonderful.
out. You don't go, oh, I need to get back in. Should I short? It's like, no, shorts are not on my card in my plan today. So we're gonna wait and see what happens during Comex. This is now
Thank you very
London.
much for
One
the
trade
update.
didn't work. Done. Yeah.
See, beautiful reaction. Beautiful. Neutrality. Neutral is the new
Yeah,
alpha. Example,
neutral.
Q,
Neutral is a new alpha.
green candle. She might think this might fly. I need it now. She might put a market order and regret, but she breathe. She's breathing. She doesn't feel rush. And
Yeah, I
if
didn't
you feel
regret
rush,
it. There's no regret. It's like setup was there. We extended the initial balance, and we've been in an uptrend. There's nothing to regret. It's just one trade that doesn't work out. Like this, like
good.
regretting. It's like, oh boo, it didn't work. It's like, to me, it's kind of like a toddler throwing the toys out of the pram and getting angry at things that they don't really have much control over. Oh, I really want to eat again or something, and the mom says, no, you ate already. Meh. Every time I see traders getting really upset about trades that don't work out, I have the toddlers in my head. It's like, oh yeah, oh bless. It's like,
That is so funny.
you'll
Every time I
learn.
hear somebody saying I coulda, woulda, shoulda, I have the same process as you. I'm like,
Yeah,
dude, like
yeah. It's like you
anyway.
didn't, so let's move on. So, yeah,
Exactly.
stop dwelling.
But you don't understand. Yes, I do. Do
Yeah,
you
yes, we
understand?
do. Yes, do you? It
Exactly.
is you who doesn't understand. Yeah,
Exactly. Fascinating. And so we're almost to the end, but yeah, you need to install the trader you want to become. And so
yeah,
for the framework, name the trader version you want to install. If you want to be an aggressive scalper, then be it. I mean, I'm not telling you what is good, what is bad. I'm telling you what can lead you to good and what can
yeah.
lead you to bad, actually, as well. I can teach you how to be a bad trader as well. So visualize how these people breathe, how these people move, how these people execute. I mean, visualizing doesn't mean knowing. It means imagining, like envisioning yourself in their shoes. Write what they believe and act like them in pressure moments. Even if you're wrong, if you follow the framework, trust me, it's going to make a change, because identity-based behavior change is the strongest form of lasting transformation. And this has been proven in sport. This has been proven and proven and proven in sport. And here we come to the end slides with the real method. So it's a method we came to. Hope you guys will like it. It's a method you can integrate on a daily basis for trading and life. So it's a 4-step framework for mental mastery, but in trading as well. So it's like your reset button, your map, your way back when you drift, and you can use it before the open, during high emotion, after or during chaos. And the more you rehearse it, the more it will become you. So R stands for regulate. You need to downshift the nervous system to bring the thinking brake back online. Okay. So under stress, again, people are going to be mad. We're repeating this over and over. The limbic system hijacks control, shutting down the PFC, which is the part responsible for logic, foresight, and discipline. So as tools, you have breath work. You can inhale 4 times and 4 seconds, sorry, and exhale 6 to 8 seconds times 3 prescription, times 2 to 3. You can do the somatic scan, so jaw, gut, chest, hands, heart palpitations, all these elements. What we said, name it to tame it. So this is urgency, this is anxiety. I don't need to act from it. Name the state you are aware being in, and know your environmental anchor. Feet flat, have your feet flat, spine tall, drop your shoulders into the back, respect your posture as well. So for the inhale, exhale, this will reset your vagus nerve shift system with the parasympathetic system. For the jaw, gut, hand stand, somatic stand, you will detect tensions early. For labeling emotion, you will know that it's a signal. It's not a signal. Sorry, it's you don't identify indeed to a feeling. And the breath to click habit is
So hold
one
on, if I
conscious
understand that. So this is maybe impulse, not a signal. So it's
uh,
urgency, impulse.
urgency or urgency. For example, if you feel urgent, yeah, impulse. It could be impulse as well.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Okay.
And breath to click is something I practice every day. So before every entry, I have one conscious breath. I pay attention to my breathing and I pay attention to my hands, are they sweaty or not? And if my hands are dry and if my breathing is calm, I don't feel my heart like fast, I take the trade. That means I am calm, I am present. So the ANS, the automatic nervous system, controls the stress answers. And so the fight flight shuts down the PFC, impulsive decisions, and the PS, parasympathetic activation through breath, posture, and somatic awareness restores clarity. So most losses don't come from bad strategies, but from state-driven errors most of the time. So then we come to the E for envision. So activate your identity systems and orient yourself toward the version of you who trades well. Your default mode network, DMN, runs emotional memory and self-narrative. When intended, it loops past failures. Okay, we've been through it today. So you must give it a new direction. Okay, so you have different tools, future self visualization, for example. How does the best version of me breathe right now? What would my future self do? Identity affirmation. I am a calm, clear, focused trader. Mental rehearsal. See yourself managing a hard session with calm. Visualization. The morning I am statements. You don't chase outcomes. In the morning, you might tell yourself, I need a winning day, while I tell myself, I am a calm, patient, and processed trader. So your intention is to chase the winning day. My intention is to chase the process. Guess who's going to win? I don't know, but you know.
Yeah, but if you add time into consideration, it's going to be the person who controls their emotional state better over time. Sure, people who are chasing money and that's the only thing that they're focused on, they will have an odd day when they get lucky, right? But over time, that dysregulated behavior is again going to come back to punish you in the form of the negative P&L. It's just how it is. But yeah, so shifting that intention to something else other than money. So not like, oh, I'm going to make 10,000 today. Why don't you just go, today I will control my losses.
Exactly. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful. So next week is the exam. Be ready, guys. So,
actually, Bruno said the neuro quiz exam. We have top quiz. We can do neuro quiz.
that is hilarious. You win a Topstep combine if you follow well the Neuro Wednesdays. Wow,
exactly.
we should do something like that. Wow. So if you believe you're always impulsive or never consistent, you will trade into those beliefs. Without vision, your brain will default to past pain or protection. Okay? Your brain runs autobiographical memory plus self-image. Okay? Vision isn't fluff, it's fuel. You need to fuel yourself. My future self is not a fantasy, it's my map, you know? And I have a tool I use. I call it the avatar naming. So call yourself things like I am the calm operator or I am a discipline builder, you know, creates distance from reactive identity, you know. Some people like to call themselves risk managers, for example, instead of traders. So why not call yourself a discipline builder or calm I love calm operator, actually.
Yeah.
I love it. But
It
find
reminds
yourself.
me of, was it Sade back in the 90s? Smooth operator.
What's
Smooth
that?
operator. It's an old song. I'm probably a bit older. So never mind. People my age know who
Very
Sade
funny.
is.
All right. Then we comes to the A. We comes to the A, which is align. A trader can know everything and still betray themselves under pressure. Alignment is the congruence of three things: belief, emotion, and behavior. Okay, belief, emotion, and behavior. So connect state plus setup plus identity to generate coherent execution. And you have the different tools. So pre-trade self-check, for example, future self-gain, rule of three, setup match plus state check plus size clarity, green light. This is a go. I'm going into the trade. And then emotional double check. If I need this trade to work, then I wait. If you need any trade to work, wait. My best advice would be to not take the trade. If you need, so remember last week we said a sentence, the moment you need a trade to work, you lose the state that allows you to earn it.
So is that why, like, for example, if you have multiple sources of income, it becomes so much easier to actually generate more profits in your funded accounts or in any accounts? Because I see people who want to just be traders. And I think that's not a great thing for beginners because it will add additional psychological pressure. And I think that's why, because you need things to work. It's like, how am I going to pay my mortgage? How am I going to pay my bills? How am I going to pay my kids' college? And, you know, all of this other stuff is in your head rather than this setup is valid, not valid, probabilities, am I calm, am I not calm? Because you're not going to be calm. You're going to be constantly working out of that need to make money, and that trips you up. It sounds counterintuitive, but I feel that's a problem for a lot of people who are like, I need this money, I'm in debt. And I'm like, you shouldn't be trading if you're in debt. Sort yourself out first. This is not going to be the way out. You know, maybe start an OnlyFans or something.
I don't know about that.
But you know, this will not be a way out of debt. That's for sure. Not immediately. It might be at some point, but not when you're like up to your eyeballs in bills and debts and, you know, people chasing you for money. Trading is probably quite is probably the worst thing that you can get into to try and solve your financial troubles. Because, you know, for me, I always say it, look in your real life and how you are with your personal money. If you're not very good, first you need to figure out what's going on there before you go into trading, because the likelihood is if you're not good with your private funds and, you know, personal finance, you're probably not going to be that great as a trader either. I find that it's very reflective of how people behave as traders. So
Yeah, thank you for that. It's like the PIM, perception, intention, manner of act.
Yeah.
If and I've been in these shoes when I started trading, when I wasn't profitable. I traded for money, because why do we start trading for money, right? But trading is a business, trading like entrepreneurship. In entrepreneurship, I've been taught that money is a byproduct of the process. And guess what I learned in trading? In trading, money is a byproduct of the process. So if you put money at the bottom end of your wish list, goals list, then if you achieve everything above it, you will have the money. But if money is at the top of your list, you will not only not achieve that, but you will not achieve everything below it as well. So change your perception. If your goal is money is on top, perception is wrong, because intention will be consequential from the perception. So if you trade for money, and of course it's easier to say that when you're profitable, I completely understand. But if you trade with the intent of making money, you're not going to make it, or you have a very, very small chance of making it. But if you trade for the sake of the craft and trading, then you can trust us, you have a very much bigger chance of being profitable. And once you become profitable, then indeed it's easier. But let's say you are not profitable, but you have multiple sources of income, as you said, or at least one, and a stable one. And that is why we advise people to start trading as a side hustle. You know, don't quit your job and get into trading when you did your first payout. You know, this is absurd. You know.
Yeah, it's like people who go, "Oh, I've had 1 week profitable. I'm starting a hedge fund." It's like,
yeah, exactly. Yeah, go ahead. Start your prop firm or whatever.
Yes, start your own prop firm. Yeah.
Exactly. And so you need to reassess that as well. This is very important. So for alignment, you have different tools. So the triple alignment check, setup state size equals entry. Would my future self take this? You align behavior with identity. The self audit phrase, do I need this trade to work? If yes, wait. And clarity mantra, for example, when I'm clear, I don't chase. The brain creates coherence when cognitive intent matches emotional and physiological state. Misalignment in the brain increase error detection, performance anxiety, and sabotage. Okay, so alignment means your setup, your emotional state, and your execution rules are all green lit. And when we are not aligned, even good trades feel uncertain.
Interesting.
And now we come to the last part, which is L for learn. Okay, so neuroplasticity requires post-event reflection. Without reflection, emotional memory embeds fixes impulsivity. With it, you fix precision. So use journaling and reflection to consolidate learning. That will reinforce new circuits and increase future stability. So for tools, you can have the end of day loop. What part of me showed up today? When did I override reactivity? What do I want to reinforce tomorrow? This is very precise and accurate, right? You need to face yourself in the mirror, and trust me, you're going to improve way more than what you might believe.
Yeah.
So if it's
You
a win
got
or a
through,
loss, yes,
yeah,
sir,
you
go
got
ahead.
through big transformative moments. I like to teach people through Kolb's experiential learning cycle, and it has exactly that. So you do some trading, and then you review and see what was done right, what was done a little bit wrong, what could be improved. Then you improve upon that and trade again. So rinse and repeat until you get to whatever level you want to be at. But it has to be done initially on a daily basis, and then over time you can maybe drop down to like once a week review as things get better, as you get less and less issues with controlling yourself and staying in control. And it does get easier because of neuroplasticity, because our brains tend to develop more efficient energy pathways over time. But it's not going to happen tomorrow, it's not going to happen yesterday, and it's probably not even going to happen in 1 week or 1 month. It's a process that has to be practiced pretty deliberately over time.
Yeah, thank you very much. So basically, the goal would be to not just track trades, but track transformation.
Yeah.
And not performance transformation, but inner
No,
transformation. Oh,
yourself,
I
inner
went through
transformation.
200 winnings to 1,000 winnings. No, that's
Yeah.
not transformation. That's a
No.
progression.
Yeah.
And so this is the last year. So as tools, you have the daily part of me review. So what version of me traded today? The pattern recognition loop. So what triggered me? What did I do with it? The journaling reframes. What belief do I want to strengthen tomorrow? And wins for identity reinforcement. So highlight what you did right, not just PNL. Celebrate behaviors, not PNL, remember. So if you don't integrate the day, you repeat the emotion. So traders who don't reflect anchor emotional memory unconsciously. Trust me, mistakes are either consolidated as shame or rewired as growth. This is one of the most unpopular opinion in trading, in my humble opinion. Um, don't underestimate that. Memory reconsolidation only happens with two components: reflection and emotional awareness. You mix both, you reconsolidate your memory, your emotional memory. So journaling, reappraisal, and micro celebration build new neural maps. So when in doubt, go real. Regulate, envision, align, learn. Regulate. If my body is not calm, I wait. Envision. Would my future self take this? Align. Am I congruent with my rules? Learn. What identity was reinforced today? Thank you.
That's amazing. Yeah. So let's set a task for everybody. So we're going to go real. Okay. So I want everyone who's a part of this chat to take a screenshot of this. And for the next week, let's apply this process to basically every time you're going to take a trade or every time you are doing your journaling and reviewing how you've done for that day. And let's see where we get to. And, you'll see that reasonably quickly, you'll be like, oh, this is getting easier. You're not going to be the wizard immediately, but it's going to help for you to maybe stop making as many mistakes and over time to realize where the problem actually is. It's all about mental triggers. People are always searching for some big holy grail in trading, but I think that holy grail is inside of us. It is not in any level. It is not in, a VWAP. It is not in market profile. It is not anywhere else. It is something that you already have inside of you, but we need to practice how to access the right parts of us. And these sort of steps and exercises will definitely help you to get there much quicker than watching, someone who's getting super, super upset or super happy about winning the trade or losing a trade. All right, let's take some questions. Let's see whether people have some questions for us here. I know there were a few here and there, and then when we're doing these sessions, everyone's pretty attentive.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's see. Yeah, so throw some questions at us. When in doubt, keep it real. That's it. Yeah, Jonathan. When in doubt, keep it real. Let's see. Did I miss anything? How does workout before trading affects your success? I think that was probably a question for me. There is a biological process that happens with the glycogen reserves that we carry in our liver. And when you do exercise, so basically glycogen is your fuel for fight or flight response. It's not going to completely prevent it, but if you minimize your glycogen reserves, what tends to happen is that you just don't have enough fuel to kick off into a real fight or flight. So by exercising, you're sort of drained and your prefrontal cortex is more readily engaged, even though there might be a little bit of emotion or something. But to me, it really helped to bring me out of the funk that I was in the first time around, like 13, 14 years ago. Whenever I felt uncomfortable, I used to go to the gym, get it all out, and then go sit down and trade. So there is that biological connection.
Exactly. You release cortisol, so you lower cortisol, you increase testosterone levels. So cortisol is the stress hormone, and testosterone is the self-trust hormone. So you basically increase self-trust, you release stress, and with the glycogen as well, glucose levels, and you like hitting the gym, unless you abuse of it, can only help you, whether it's before or after trading, whatever suits you. But yeah, it helps you release, even after a bad trade. For example, you have a bad trade or a losing trade, just step back, do 5 squats or 5 push-ups, whatever. That will instantly release some stress, some tension, some physical tension inside your body.
Yeah. Paul H wants to ask you if we can talk about sleep one day.
Yes, for sure. With pleasure.
Yeah, I think a lot of people in our industry glorify not having enough sleep. I think that's what he's getting at. And it's like I know that in the entrepreneur side, you're celebrated for, doing very long hours and not sleeping very well. Is that the best thing for us? Probably not. And I just wonder how much more we would be able to achieve if we are a little more or a lot more attentive towards our sleep hygiene. So yeah, maybe we can talk about how sleep maybe impacts neuroplasticity as well. I know that as a musician, we used to have these exercises where you were required to practice a phrase that was bothering you. Like you would practice it 50 times, repeating it very slowly and then ever so slowly increasing the tempo and then going to sleep so that you would effectively have that phrase and all the new neural connections that your brain is trying to solve with this new thing where your fingers and your brain are not quite going together, to basically do it as close to sleep, because that's the last problem that you give to your brain. And then once you sleep, your brain works on the solution and creating new neural networks. It's definitely interesting, and I've used that in trading as well, but I would really like to hear your thoughts on maybe how we can utilize sleep as a learning tool.
Wonderful.
That'll be a good
Yeah,
one.
I can prepare this for next week's session.
Yeah,
Sleep is actually the most important pillar in life,
yeah.
not only in trading. Personally, my sleep quality was very awful last year, and I made myself aware of that. I realized that it impacted my trading as well. So I improved my sleep quality, not quantity, my sleep
Hmm.
quality. And thanks God, it's marvelous today. It's beautiful.
That's good to
And I
hear.
can
Yeah.
feel it within my trading. And so when I was a student, the thing is, when we sleep, we we anchor the knowledge we learned, right? So I could literally feel during some years of my studies that when I was overwhelmed mentally, uh, I would wake up and would not clearly remember what I learned the day before because my brain wouldn't remember well because my sleep quality wasn't good. So sleep is essential. And yeah, I would be glad to speak about it next week. There's also a question. I think somebody asked about EMDR a couple
Yeah,
of times. So
EMDR. Yeah.
EMDR is a therapy based on past experiences used in PTSD, or post-traumatic stress disorders, and it's a method used with pupil movement. So it's something we need a training for. So for example, for instance, myself, I don't have an EMDR training. I could. It's not something I want to go into. I know some friend therapists that have this. The doggies know it's their time. But yeah, EMDR is used in therapy.
Yeah, so it's because of my session. I actually mentioned it yesterday that if you have some big traumas relating to trading, you need to tackle them. So one of the things that I was advised by a therapist is to do EMDR, and because I had some hang-ups over basically one big loss that I suffered very early on in the first 2 years of my career, and it just kept affecting me. I kept sort of reflecting on it, and I needed to move past it. And then they said, "Well, why don't you try EMDR?" And I was like, "What's that?" And you are right. So it's basically a lateral eye movement. You follow like either a little ball on the screen or something. Like they give you something to focus your eyes on, and it's really interesting how it brings up a lot of a lot of emotions that you can then replace pretty quickly. And it's got something to do with the way our brains process information and feeling safe when your eyes are going left and right, left and right. It's like it's very fascinating to me, but it worked. So to me, it brought up a lot of negative feelings when I was first doing it. But I didn't feel like overwhelmed. I hear that people cry and they just really go breaking down completely. And then they do the positive side of it. And with each session, it gets easier and easier until the effect of the trauma is minimized or in some cases fully eliminated as well. So it's a very powerful tool. Very interesting. Benji
Beautiful.
wants to know what kind of journaling specifics do you advise about non-trading related activities that can have an impact on trading? That's a good question.
Like emotional journaling, for example, or
Well, yeah, I
mindset
think
journaling.
so. Yeah, I
I
think
mean,
it's emotional
everything we
journaling.
speak
Yeah.
about, it's all on the
Yeah.
slides. You're gonna have it. Was this Ben? I mean, yeah, uh, I've literally written on the slides everything you need to journal. So when we share the slides, I invite you to go back to the slides. It's gonna be there. But
Yes.
yeah, you need to journal. We've said it. Hogue said it yesterday. Nobody want to do it. Nobody wants to do it.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to
Yeah.
think about how we feel. But
Yes,
that's
it's
how you're gonna be
uncomfortable.
successful.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Get comfortable being uncomfortable. That's what I always say. That's what trading is all about. What if we talk now about the 1 hour FVG on GC? No, let's move on. Can we address nightmares about being in a trade even though you are not in a trade? I think that comes back to the trauma.
Yeah,
So
PTSD
Sandra,
plus plus plus.
yeah, Sandra, maybe try EMDR because it does sound like you have some psychological trauma there. Find a therapist, maybe. It's not super cheap, I will warn you. Like, no therapy is ever cheap, right? So the fact that we even have Jerome doing this for us on like a public forum for free, invaluable, really. But yeah, if you want to tackle your specific traumas, you would probably have to go to a therapist. I know there's virtual EMDR, but if you're really having nightmares about trading and stuff, maybe it's time to, go and look for a professional to guide your journey. There's nothing wrong about it. Mike Koza says, is it possible to be successful trading without staring at the charts all day? And is it okay to lock myself out after a win or a loss? I mean, it's possible. Whether you can be successful intraday trading is another thing. I would say maybe not, because it's a different skill level. You need experience of knowing how the prices move intraday. Does that require you to sit in front of the charts all day? Probably not, but it does require you to sit in front of the charts for the time frame that you plan to trade during, right? So if that's like 3 hours during the New York session, sit for 3 hours during the New York session and find out everything about it, right? Write down when the events are happening. What did you observe? What level was there? How did the price react around it? How does the momentum trade look like? What time of day do you become obvious of a range-bound day? Things like that. You don't need to stare at the charts for 13 hours, but it's certainly an experiential activity. Just like you wouldn't be able to become, an Olympic medalist without spending a lot of hours practicing your, running or swimming or whatever your discipline is. Likewise, you're not going to be able to become top of the line trader. And by the way, I'm of the opinion that in intraday, there's no mediocrity. You're either good at what you do or you're getting run over by those who are good at what you do. There's no it's a beginner's market. It's like everybody's trading on the same market. Nobody's going to wait for a beginner to catch up. Goldman is not going to sit there and go, you know what, we're going to hold off making money now to make things easier. We're not going to do stop runs and liquidity grabs just to get Dave to catch up.
Exactly. Imagine.
Yeah.
Imagine.
Yeah, it would be lovely, wouldn't it, if they had the courtesy to allow those people who are not quite there yet to catch up. Yeah. So, it's a very harsh environment. I'm frequently accused of being pretty blunt, but I am blunt because I am a trader. I can pat you on the back for doing wrong things and go, oh, poor you. Or, I can just tell you, well, maybe if you didn't do that, and maybe if you locked yourself up after the first 500 loss, we wouldn't be talking about a blown up XFA. So whose fault is that? And then people are like, oh, dear, you're so harsh. It's like, maybe, but it's tough love. I like to call it tough love. And, if you're not honest with yourself, this journey is going to take a lot longer. If you are honest, to a degree, not self-deprecating, there's a big difference between being honest with yourself, how did you do, did you follow your rules, and calling yourself a muppet, idiot, silly, stupid. There's a big difference between those two. One is being objectively honest about what you've done today, whether you followed the rules, and the other one is just being very bad towards yourself. So we don't want that, but we do want honesty, right? We don't want lies about, oh, it was the market's fault. There's always, I'm never going to blame the market. Even when crude oil changed, I'm not blaming necessarily crude oil, but I do know that the crude oil is not conducive to my strategy. So, I move away. Whose fault is it that I kept trading it for 6 months? It was mine because I knew things about it for 12 years. Then the market changed. Whose fault was it? It was my fault. It wasn't the crude oil's fault. It's like, I can't blame the market for changing. It's not how this game works. But do you have to sit there for 18 hours a day and, really kind of stare at it all day long? No, but you do need experience for the 3 hours that you're going to be active in. Do you agree, Jerome?
Exactly. Completely agreed. Also, for the second part, is it okay for locking myself out after a win-loss? Yes, of course. I mean, it's about self-image. If you ask yourself, is it okay, then you have to redefine the principle of locking out. I mean,
yeah.
Does it make sense? So yeah, redefine your trend. But it's another topic. This is technical.
It is.
Today is mental. Today is
maybe
Wednesday.
one of these sessions we can maybe show, because I see that Ayush is asking, can you please share the slide on what to journal? I recently felt that my strategy isn't suited for volatile markets. I feel compelled to trade even though I know the markets aren't behaving as I planned. We can do that, but I think for most people, this volatility has basically brought people to kind of start questioning their strategies when in reality all you need to do is just to widen some of your stops. So I would say try going down to a micro, widen your stops, and see whether that strategy still works. Because I haven't felt the need to change my strategy, but I have changed the size of stops. That's the only thing, and obviously a size down, but that is the only thing that I needed to switch. Everything else still works as it worked before, but in a wider range. So rather than journaling your emotional states, yes, that's helpful, but I would go and re-examine the strategy and the stops that you're using, because it's very likely that that is the reason for you not doing that well in a high volatility environment. This is where we get to a point where, you know, having some sort of a systematic framework to figure out the volatility of the market that you're trading, because using 20 points on NQ 6 months ago is not the same as using 20 points now, where 20 points is like 1 second move. Okay, so we really need to, you know, try and develop a little bit more robust ways to adjust our stop losses and our targets towards the volatility of the current market state. Yeah. All right. I think we're going to finish up this session here. Jerome, thank you so much for doing
Thank you, guys.
an amazing slide for us again today. We are working on getting all of this online. It does sound like it's going to be on Discord first.
Yeah.
I'm going to get in touch with Tim and Danielle to see exactly where they want me to put that. Jerome, any closing words?
No, but we can. I think we can put it on TopstepTV. Bruno, if you hear me, we can share it in the French channel, and we can tag at everyone saying we got these slides. And if you want, I can prepare a message. I can copy paste it to you and Bruno. And if you want guys to share it in Discord. As
yeah,
is.
for sure. Yeah. I mean, Bruno is one of our ambassadors in there as well. So if you know where this is supposed to go, you know, do it.
Let's do it.
Okay. Yeah, and then just let me know. Yeah.
Yes. I'll let you.
All right. So let's do that homework for people. So we're going to be getting real with our skills here. So yeah, we've got a task for the next week, and keep doing that exercise. Go over some of the previous sessions that we've done as well, in case you missed them. Rect is saying, how do you remain disciplined? I feel like I do great for a while, and then boom. We've talked about this actually in the previous session, where somebody else was struggling with the same thing. So it's not... you need to replace the bad habits. You also need to not over dramatize things, and to, you know, to just tackle this issue of you wanting more, which says, you say that my biggest problem is wanting more. You need to examine why. Well, like how much more? And why do you want more? Like at what point would you say it's enough? Yeah, it's the dopamine. Yeah. So you're literally just chasing more high and more high and more high and more high. You need to unglue yourself from that. You cannot be trading from the position of high dopamine and constantly craving the dopamine hit. It's kind of like an addict craving the next hit. It's exactly the same. So you need to recognize that, name it, and then work on leveling yourself, centering yourself before each trade, and over time to level out your baseline of dopamine and stop going through baseline squirts where you're like, yay, I'm winning, it's amazing, and then you lose and you're like, oh, crash, oh my god, what have I done, I'm the worst person. Well, like, you know, you need to stop that cycle. It's the same cycle that addicts and gamblers are stuck in. You can't be doing that and expecting you're going to have a long career out of this. You almost have to be super objective, super neutral. You need to get to a point where you're working so much with your emotions and you know yourself that you can completely control the outcome of the emotional state away from the result of the trade, whether it's a win or a loss.
Exactly. Thank you for that. And I would just add that the thing beautiful is this individual asked, how do you remain disciplined? I feel like I do great for a while and then boom. Okay, stop there. You do great for a while and then boom. Then what happens right there? what happens right there? I go back to old bad habits and blow the account. Okay, we are humans, right? You do great during a period of time, then boom, then remember how and what you did great. It's okay to fade. It's okay to step back. It's okay to not succeed every time, but just refocus on what you used to do well, because the beauty is what you can do once, you can do twice, right? Theoretically. So basically, instead of sabotaging yourself into, oh, I could do this before, but I can't do this anymore. The reason you cannot do this anymore because your language, circuit breakers, remember, your language is, I cannot do this anymore. Change the language, change the tape.
Absolutely. So we have someone saying, someone asking Cycle for London, does fasting help with dopamine? So I looked into this, right? Because I was doing some psychology lectures for my own pro development program, and I looked into it. Most fasting in humans as a means to level out your dopamine, most evidence is anecdotal. The studies that were done were on mice, and on mice, yes, 48-hour fasts did bring the baseline to, like, normality. But again, it's in mice. Yes, we're mammals, but I think a mouse and a human is a little different. So take it with a pinch of salt. If you don't have any sort of problems with fasting, and, if you don't suffer from medical conditions, maybe you can try it and see whether it helps you. But it would have to be a pretty, it would either have to be like a keto sort of thing where you're sort of tricking your brain into a fasting state. I think very few people can just go without food for like 2 days, and it would be a little bit more dangerous. So again, caution with that. But yes, there's some anecdotal evidence that if you want to put your baseline down very quickly. Yeah, my dogs are going crazy. They're saying, all right, it's time to finish. Yeah, so be careful with fasting, but yeah, try it, see whether it helps you. Sorry, guys, this is it.
Sorry,
all right, we're
it's a
going to
party
finish it
there.
up. It is a party. Yeah, 8 dogs. We're going to finish it. Thank you so much for being with us. Join us again, obviously, next Wednesday, but I will be here tomorrow for you to do a little bit more overview, trading, copper, and all of that good stuff. So yeah, let's keep these sessions going. Let us know how you're doing with the tasks. Enjoy the rest of your day. Jerome, any final words?
Thank you. Gratefulness
Thank
and
you.
fun.
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody.
Bury the brain.
Take care of your brain. Take care of your brains, and take care of the people you love. And thank you.
Beautiful words. Thank you, everyone. I'm Marcus Stoker D. This is Jerome, and this has been the Neuro Wednesday on TopstepTV. Take care.
Oh.